This is the title of the presentation, and I would like to be able to open your eyes to see the double meaning of the word passion. It often is connected to something positive, enthusiasm, love for your work. You are really committed for doing something, but not forgetting the other meaning of passion, that is the suffering, the pain. But let me first start with Aalto University. It's a rather new university, established 2010 as a merger of 3 Helsinki-based universities. And in addition, what Ezri just mentioned, Aalto is very highly ranked. You know, those university rankings are very important, and Aalto is very highly ranked into alphabetical order. If you allow, I will just say a few words about myself and my passion. As every Finn, I love sauna. You know the place. It's hard to explain the concept of sauna, but first you go into the hot place where you suffer the heat and then you come out and feel much better. I'm also a football player. That's my other passion. And maybe the picture will explain why Finland will never qualify to the World Cup. And the third picture is about my students. This picture is taken many years back. And many times some colleagues of mine, they have told that you should not show pictures like that. It gives completely a false impression about university studies of engineering. Well, might be true, and it's not the core part of engineering studies, what is a pity, I believe. The students will learn a lot about the tools and machine elements and everything when doing so, but hey, just look at their faces, how happy they are. That is the most important reason for having such activities as well. So in Aalto University, we have a place called Design Factory that I try to explain a bit in more detail soon, but we have one very simple goal setting. We want to educate the world's best product designers. And after the first opening talk, I felt a bit silent that what can I say, but maybe this is also something that will help to that problem as well. The concept of university education, as we all know, is really old. This picture was painted already some 600 years ago by Laurentinus, and I think it has quite well captured all the key elements of university education. The only thing that we are missing today is, I would say, we professors, we don't have those nice ivory towers anymore, but otherwise the concept is very much followed in universities world over. The students are sitting there, taking notes, and the teaching assistants are supervising that no one falls asleep. Well, it seems in the picture that someone has fallen already. So what happens in this kind of educational settings, sometimes it may happen that the learning actually dies because of the overdose of information. Another saying that you often may have heard by decision makers, politicians, deans or presidents is this, that innovations are born on borders of disciplines, underlying the importance of interdisciplinary cooperative activities and so forth. I love this sentence. I love because it's a perfect example of a kind of a half-truth, where you say all the positive about something but nothing about the negative side. And then we come to the passion as well. This painting is painted by Hieronymus Bosch, and I think my students, they often can really find themselves in the position of the gentleman in the middle. So when speaking about real-life projects, real challenges, real issues with human beings, that's how it is. Or just look at the eyes on those guys. They have been trying to fix the problem with this technical system for 12 hours and still it won't work. Or the famous last nights before deadlines. Sometimes the life is really hard. Not speaking about the differences between the team in theory and in theory and in reality. Every team would like to have just the most talented and motivated members, but sometimes the reality just hits your face. Or the human issues. I'm trained as an engineer in mechanical engineering and machine design, but quite often when I work with my teams, with my students, I can see myself as a kind of lawyer or legal assistant or psychologist or priest or marriage consultant, you name it. And then the testing can also be quite challenging sometimes. This is my welcome to Finland in April picture. So what comes to this kind of teamwork outcomes and capabilities, I think this kind of equation is quite interesting and quite true. So you must have some competence and skills. In an interdisciplinary team, it's good that you have good engineers, good designers, good business people, but the competence as such doesn't mean anything if you have no enthusiasm, if you have no passion, if you have no commitment. And maybe that is the one that should be squared. The thing that matters is what you got as result. There is a nice analogy for this bird. Is anyone familiar with this? It's called the black skimmer. It's a very talented flyer. So it can fly so that the lower jaw is under the water surface, and every now and then, click, click, it will snap the jaws and get a fish. But even so, if it's too lazy to fly, it will never get the fish. Or if it's too afraid of the fact that you can't see so well what is under the water surface, and sometimes there is a rock or a log, and it may hurt for a while. So that's product development. This picture is taken from a team meeting by my students many, many years back. And that was one of the kind of impulses that made me thought that, are we really doing the best we can for the students? The picture is, by the way, taken from the home, from one of the students. Why is that? Because all the university buildings were closed. They were not accessible at late nights, over weekends. And that is exactly the time when the students can find some common time for their meetings and for their working, because they all have different programs, different schedules, conflicting agendas, and the only free times, they are hard to find, and oftentimes it's just evenings and weekends. So that's how it started that, we started to develop these learning environments. First in the basement with no windows and kind of not legal places for humans to work continuously. We built more labs or studios, all with small money, kind of temporary and easy arrangements for experimenting these ideas, that how they would actually work and what kind of improvements we could make. Myself as a professor, I've been in charge for something called PDP, the Product Development Project, for more than 20 years already. And during that, we have managed to complete quite a number of projects with our students, also with partner universities and company partners. Company partners, they might be well-known, bigger names, they might be local companies, they might be medium-sized, or just very small or startup partners. If I show you the numbers from just one year, one academic year, what is happening with this one single university course, the numbers are quite interesting. The students and we, the supporters, the teaching team, the other supporters, we are spending more than 60,000 hours for this. So it's quite a workload. So to me, it makes sense that something, not only learning happens when you put such much effort on something. There is quite a lot of traveling, CNC hours, and of course, the Finnish fuel for our innovation engine, coffee, is really important. At Design Factory, we try to keep some things always clear in mind, that the students should always come first. We have a lot of activities, also with startups, young entrepreneurs and so forth, but the student projects, the students should always have the first priority. And of course, everything we try to do is for learning. It's often having the form of teamwork, but I can tell you there is no learning and there is no successful teamwork before also the individuals start working. And as teachers, we have a tendency to think about the facts and the contents and what should be included in the studies. But then what you really remember after some years, or when 20 years have passed from your studies, it's just the feelings and the good stories related to this or that. And prototyping as a way to learn is very important. Sometimes it gives you better insight to something. Sometimes the insight is that something is not a good idea and you must find something else. So if I come back to the Design Factory and try to pick some words or terms that best describe this entity, I would pick PBL, often used for problem-based learning or project-based learning, but in our place, we often use it for passion-based learning as well. The idea is to bring in a little bit theory, a little bit practice to the theory, to provide easy access 24/7 for all the students. And it's a unit, it's not a department, but it's a unit that is open for all schools in our university. And I'm speaking about the engineering schools, the design schools, and the business schools. Some important elements of learning is the prototyping and what we often call the quick and dirty way of doing. So what you see in the picture, the students were challenged to invent something that will increase the quality in MRI imaging. And one way to increase the quality is to keep the patient still. And they were applying this vacuum force and elastic foil that is keeping you unmoved against a firm plate. I was testing it. Some main surgeons from the local hospital were testing it with all their suits on and so forth. And I can tell this is what makes the professor's life interesting as well, particularly when you need to explain to the accounting office that it was really important for scientific reasons to buy this silicone linen from a sex shop. The more far away the potential users are from your own background, your your age, your sex, or whatnot, the more important it is to approach them as early as possible and get them involved in testing. Sometimes your own personal testing experience is much different from anything you can achieve on computer screen or on paper. You don't even see, but the person is holding a small handheld terminal by wearing all those protective gear, and it's just impossible to get that experience without it. The very unscient concept of learning, that the more novice learner is learning from a more advanced learner as a doctoral student, is good for both sides. So everyone knows that you really learn things when you need to teach someone else, and it's also efficient for the younger learner. Having enough labs where you can build things, prototype things, test things, but oftentimes it's not enough. We need to send the students to places like this ship simulator close to our campus, or to the shipyard to see how they are really building those big ship blocks by welding. We have some technologies in-house, and we have some experienced users. One solution is to hire continuously some junior assistants, some students who can help us with the machines, because these are not something that everyone can use naturally. And then every now and then there are all kind of strange visitors coming to the workshops, no matter what time of day it might be. And we usually always push the students in front line in rehearsing for their storytelling skills. I don't know if anyone has any idea who are those two older gentlemen in the middle. I can help you and say they are the presidents of Switzerland and the colleague president of Finland visiting our students there. This gentleman is the president of Czech. This guy is the king of Sweden, and this one is the president from the prime minister of Russia. So, it's an interesting chance to meet those guys when you are studying, when you have something that is not even finished yet, and then trying to tell something about your learning experience to those visitors. But we also have some more formal activities, like a big exhibition at the end of every spring, where the students are asked to show their final outcomes. And here you see the welder again, those guys who were visiting the shipping yard. And what they actually did, they developed a new type of welder's helmet that brings in the augmented reality for the welder, so that he can see the technical drawings, interact with the supervisor, and get some other information to his view. And of course there is no keyboard, or should I say a keyboard on the welding spot is not a good idea. So the augmented reality application works with all those gestures that you can just show in front of your face. There are so many different type of projects, challenges, assignments, but what is common is that they are always brought through from the very beginning to a prototyping phase, where you can demonstrate, where you can show, where you can test the outcomes. Like a new biofuel tractor system that uses not only the diesel but also biogas, and all those containers must be somehow attached to the tractor in a fluent way. What comes to the presentation skills, I think this picture is quite a good example. We have 3 guys in the picture, and they are all from the same team. They all have truly a reason to be proud of their work. They have done really amazing job. The prototype that is there in the middle was taken to the headquarters of ABB for 1 year, and it was there as a showcase for their clients. But what comes to the storytelling skills and the body language and everything what you see in this picture, this is something that we Finns can learn a lot from others. There is a small guess. There are 3 persons in the picture. 2 of them are Finns and 1 is not. Can you guess who is who? So what I mean is that it's important to learn also from others how you can explain your facts in a more interesting and positive manner. Like in this picture from this spring, where the students were working with the therapies and clinic for memory disease. That is something that is threatening all of us. It's one of the fastest growing diseases, but if it can be diagnosed early enough, there are very efficient therapies that will slow down the development of the disease if you are able to build those clinics, the architecture, the interior architecture, and the different type of therapies efficiently. And what is interesting to think about student exercises, this is one among others where the students are building a fire-safe room that is packed in a semi-trailer and finally introduced as a fully automatically operated fire room. The idea behind is that Finland is a very large country with very few people. So there are some, like the capital region and some other big cities where the training of firefighters, police, insurance detectives and such people are very well organized, but otherwhere it's not the case. So there is a need for such training that can be mobile on wheels, so you can take the training unit everywhere. And in this car, you can build your sauna, your living room, your kitchen, and just let it burn. And there is also an inbuilt extinguishing system and all the necessary technology so that it can be operated by one person. But think about at your courses, at your university, a student exercise. This project in Finland got the nomination of the Project of the Year in the country. And I think that is quite something if it can be achieved by a student exercise. Well, some other works are invited to scientific conferences, or companies listed in stock exchange are sending out press releases about such student exercises. I find this very interesting. But everything is not just, according to the curriculum. There are many other activities happening at Design Factory, like the Language Center has often arranged such events where they show people how languages are. It's not only about the spoken language, it's about the culture as a whole. Or the students, they have proved to have endless number of good or bad ideas, like year 2010, when Shanghai was hosting the World Expo, and the first design factory out of Finland was built in Shanghai, the students decided that they must go to Shanghai as well. And what is the more natural way to go from Helsinki to Shanghai than take a train? So they called the Russian railways, and we said that we are some students of Aalto University. Would you like to rent us a train? And there were 82 students who took the road Trans-Siberia from Helsinki, Moscow to the Chinese border. And at the train they had lectures, seminars, workshops, the first TEDx that has ever organized on wheels. And they even had some exams at the train. I had no time to go with them for the whole time. I have to leave the train in Novosibirsk and fly back to Helsinki and then to Shanghai to be there some days earlier. But this is when they arrived, and we are having the celebration of the opening of the Tongji Design Factory there. The Design Factory has served as a platform for several art exhibitions or other kind of experiments, like this was the most terrible mistake I ever made. I promised our stage to be used by the kind of experimental electronic music event that was so popular that there was 200 meters queue on the front door, and next week the whole place smelled like a bar. We have tried some augmented reality experiments. The city of Espoo was asking the students to develop something special for the metro station, and here you see the same at Design Factory. So the painting you see on the wall is actually not there. So this is looked through a camera or a mobile phone lens by using a special application, and it just recognizes the signs that you are looking at, and then is calling the application to show you the artwork instead. We have interesting courses that bring together mathematics and art, and in those courses they build sometimes really amazing objects. And this is just an experimental model built for ABB for some purposes, and just showing the scale that sometimes the objects are quite big. So just to give you some figures from the Design Factory as a place, we had 771 reservations on the largest venues in 1 year, more than 200 official visits. And as you see, the doors are broad and the ceiling is high, so you can easily bring in even some larger objects. And this is something that is really useful, and the flexibility is important driver. We have brought some new machinery, 3D printing, built, designed our own 3D printing technologies that is particularly good for prototyping purposes. We look also for the younger citizens. In Finland we have an interesting system in a school, so everyone who is studying on the 8th or 9th grade, they must go for 1 week internship. That is supposed to happen in industry, but no industry is actually taking such youngsters. So it's a brilliant idea in theory, but in practice it's very badly organized. So we have tried to take this onto a new level, and when they come, they will get some of their very own and individual projects for that week, and oftentimes the results can be quite surprising. We are also working with some student-based startups. Endocube is finding efficient ways for farming crickets for human food. And they are also a good example. When they started, farming of crickets was illegal. And just after a few years, the law was changed. And now you can have crickets everywhere, in shops, in restaurants. Catchbox is another good example. 3 guys, 1 engineer, 1 designer, and 1 very business-oriented person. They met each other at the Design Factory coffee, and they soon realized that they need to do something together. They had no idea what they will do, but after careful search, they ended up by reinventing the audience engagement in seminars, in meetings, in conferences. By this box, that is a soft cube. It's the first throwable wireless microphone in the world. So, does anyone have a question? Yes, I see a hand there. You just toss the mic to the audience. So, as a summary, when speaking about future-proof education, designers, engineers, business, I don't care. These 2 gentlemen, they are quite good examples. We invited them to come to the 10 years anniversary last October, and Markus over there is one of the leading experts in injection molding in Finland. Well, the question is, did we have courses about injection molding when he was studying? Of course we didn't. Heikki here is one of the 3 founders of the most interesting ice cream factory in the Helsinki region. Did we have any courses about ice cream making when he was a student? Of course we didn't. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not that important, the techniques or the particular things that you learn. They can be outdated quite soon. But I'm speaking about the attitudes, the mindset, the hunger for learning, curiosity, the best characteristics of a product designer. And then they will not only adapt to the future, they will be the makers of the future. My final words related to this Design Factory Global Network that was already mentioned. Well, we are not ruling the network. The network is network. So any node from the network can be in cooperation with the others. And it's a free-form network of individuals who have similar kind of thoughts about the future of education and what should we do with the students if we don't really want to exactly follow the 600 years old painting of Laurentinus. If you wish, I can also say what I believe are the things you really should not do. Just focus on bureaucracy, just work in theory, trust on conventions, always keep restrictions in mind, believe in hierarchy. Safety is the best excuse for not doing anything clever, and then of course having all the focusing administration. Well, I was told that this should not be the last slide. So let me just take a little bit more positive one and just describe what is in front of you if you start to take direction somewhere that I've been just talking about. Well, I can guarantee that you will meet a lot of unpredictability. So when you start the day, you have no idea what has happened when evening comes. You should have a lot of fight with the contracts, HR, and such administration, because the things just don't match with the existing. You have a lot of issues with purchasing, the students purchasing thousands of items every year, how to train them and how to handle all that mess. There will be a lot of traveling related issues. There will be the safety, as said. That's always the excuse for not doing anything. The tendering process is sometimes in EU quite hard to follow. And the recruitment issues, as said, in 10 years I have had more than 250 employees and never more than 25 at the same time. So we have very fast rotation because we are hiring so many students. I have 5 minutes left and I finished.